All right. I believe we are live, right? Can you all hear me? Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. I believe we are live. What is up, live stream or people that are watching me? It's Kieran or K-Rod. I'm back with another good live stream for the night. I will be talking about my boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Pound for Pound, arguably number one, if not number two in the world, Terence Bud Crawford. So let's get right to it. We have a lot to talk about today. I was going to bring this up earlier just to get it out of the way, but unfortunately, I just wasn't motivated to talk about this earlier, so I figured let me get this out of the way. And plus, the StreamYard link is in the description, so for those of you that want to talk to me, where we could have a good, friendly, well-rounded discussion about Mr. Terence Crawford, please let me know, through the link, and then I could get you on up into the stream. So yeah, let's get right to it, man. Mr. Terence Bud Crawford fights at 147 pounds. And this guy, for those of you that don't know, because, I don't always talk sports on this channel, but, knowing that I'm dedicating most of my time into sports, Terence Crawford is a very, very, very good boxer. For those of you that don't know, Terence Crawford, he started his career at 135, got a belt for his very first title shot against Ricky Burns, beat him, I believe, in Scotland, if I'm not mistaken. That was a very good fight, by the way. But Mr. Terence Bud Crawford defeated Ricky, took his belt away. I believe it was for the WBO strap. And I believe even at that time, Terence Crawford, I'm more than likely to believe that Crawford, he could have actually fought. No. Actually, no. Sorry. I was thinking he could have fought Lomachenko that year, but I believe Lomachenko, he didn't even get into boxing until, hold on. Yeah, let me look at Loma. Lomachenko, box rec. Lomachenko, he didn't get into the pros until 2016, right? No, he came in at 2013. So that means that, yeah, when Crawford fought Ricky, wait, but let's take a look at Crawford. Yeah, Crawford. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm not looking at this incorrectly, but when he fought Ricky, right? This is 2014. Fought him at 135 pounds, beat him. That same year, Lomachenko, oh yeah, he was at 126. And then almost what? Oh yeah. He didn't move up to 135 until 4 years later to fight Linares. Okay, yeah. But still, it's Crawford could have easily fought him, but even at that time, 2014 lightweight championship rankings. Rankings, sorry. Yeah, I'm almost positive because at this time, who boxing, yeah, boxing. Yeah, it probably won't give me the right information, but I don't know. Yeah, we could always look at 2014. Let's see, lightweight. Yeah, Terence Crawford. He was actually the WBO champion at 135. Oh, and he could have actually fought Mickey Bay and Omar Figueroa. Oh, wow. And then he could have fought Richard Abril too. So, yeah, so I don't understand why didn't Crawford do that? Crawford could have fought Mickey Bay and he could have fought he could have fought Omar Figueroa and Richard Abril. And actually, even at that time, when he was going to move up to 140, he could have fought Jesse Vargas, Adrian Broner, Chris Algieri, Lamont Peterson, Mauricio Herrera, and even though that he did beat Thomas Delorme, that was still a very dangerous opponent. And don't forget Amir Imam, Jose Benavidez, Ivan Redkach, a lot of guys. Henry Lundy, yeah, he was 15 at the time, even though that he beat the living crap out of him. Khabib Ala Kurdayev, he was a very good fighter, by the way. Adrian Broner beat him. Yeah, he could have also fought Adrian Broner too. Yeah. Oh yeah, he was actually number 3 at that time. So dude, Adrian Broner and Crawford, yo, why didn't that fight happen? Wow. Bro, Crawford, he missed out. He could have, yo, imagine this. I'm not trying to speak, out of line here, but okay. Imagine if Terence Crawford became undisputed at 135, bumped up, came to 140, cleaned out that division, and became undisputed again at 147? People, do you realize how good Terence Crawford is? But no. Like, I'm getting a little bit, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But let me just explain about Terence Crawford. This guy is a beast. Terence Crawford is probably one of my favorite fighters in this current generation, and I really respect him. But we got to talk about this resume, man. I personally know Jamel Herring. He's really good friends with Terence Crawford. So for anybody that is probably watching this that is close with Terence Crawford, including Jamel Herring, please do not take this seriously. I know that I'm a very small channel, but let me just keep it clear. I don't have any beef against Terence Crawford, and I look up to Crawford. He's a very, well-spoken individual. But when facts speak facts, the truth cannot be disputed. So let's get right to it. Terence Crawford. For those of you that don't know, he used to be a 6-time or former world champion at 135, the WBO champion, and then after that, Terence Crawford decided to move up to 140, unify, or if not conquer that whole division and destroy everyone in that division, which, I mean, he could have easily fought other names within that division, even though that I believe they were on the come up, like Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez and Adrian Broner and Mauricio Herrera, Danny Garcia, which I'm very curious of why those people did not fight him, but I guess that's why Terence Crawford took over, because Danny, he wanted to move up, and then all the other names like Vargas and the rest of them followed. So let's just talk about the main issue about Crawford. Is Terence Crawford avoiding the best competition? And I guess we can start at 140 pounds because I'm on his box rec right now. And we can literally talk about ever since I would say the Gamboa fight. When he first got his first title against Gamboa, which actually no, that was at that was at lightweight. I'm sorry. But when he moved up to 140, which was against Thomas Delorme, which was not a bad fight. He beat Thomas Delorme fair and square. And Delorme, at that time, before he even fought Crawford, Delorme was coming off of a huge win against Henry Lundy that Crawford beat the living crap out of, which, I mean, I don't hate Lundy, but he is actually a very good fighter. And Crawford took him down, which a lot of people try to doubt him, to say, oh, Henry Lundy, he wasn't his best, blah, blah, blah. No, he took him down. So, I mean, let's just go over his credible wins. Like, the most credible wins that we could see from here is Felix Diaz beat the crap out of him. He actually stopped him. He stopped him in round 10. This is back in 2017 at 140. And then he came to Julius Ndongo, all undisputed, beat the living crap out of him in 3 rounds. And then Jeff Horn beat the living crap out of him in 9 rounds. And then we have, who else? We got Jose Benavidez Jr. That was at 147. Took him down, which, I mean, that, you know, that's a decent name, but he was unranked. He wasn't really that good of a fighter coming up. Well, I mean, prior to him getting shot in the leg, which led to his massive layoff. But that was a decent win. Yeah, I can agree that was a 3-star win. And then after that, the Amir Khan fight, which this wasn't even too much of a fight. This was more like a beatdown. Like, knocked his ass out in 6 rounds. Beat the living crap out of Kavaluskas, or Meme Machine, which I don't hate Meme Machine. I actually like Meme Machine. And then Kelbrook. Kelbrook. But let's talk about his fights at 140. Terence Crawford is a very good fighter, but there's a lot of criticism that is said about Bud, that Bud did not take out all the names at 140. And I guess that the issue is just that, did Terence Crawford fight everyone at 140? Who was at 140 at the time? Well, for what we know that Mr. Danny Garcia was at 140, which I believe Terence Crawford did want to fight Terence, or he did want to fight Danny Garcia at the time. And I believe Danny Garcia did not want to give him the fight because Mr. Victor Postel was in the way of ruining those plans. So Danny technically gave Postel, I guess, let the step aside money to fight Terence Crawford. And then I believe Danny gave up his belt, which I believe he beat Postal for what? Yeah, I'm on BoxRec right now. But yeah, he beat Victor Postal. Let's see. He's on here somewhere. Victor Postal, yeah, WBC. Yeah, so this is Danny's belt because I remember he beat Hank Lunt I'm sorry to mess that up for Henry. He beat Henry Lundy for the WBO title, and then he beat Victor Postal. So that was 2 belts already. He beat the living crap out of him. And then he defended that and beat John Molina Jr. and Felix Diaz. So he annihilated those 2 people, which, I mean, he didn't really need to fight those 2 guys. I don't believe they were even mandatories, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they were, but if they were, somebody let me know. I'm more than positive that Crawford did not need to fight those guys. He could have easily went the route of facing. Oh man. Well, I mean, Julius Ndongo is still a name, but I guess the issue is just where can we say at 140 that Terence Crawford did not fight everyone at 140? And I guess the issue is just maybe fighting guys like Adrian Broner, Regis Prograis, maybe Josh Taylor or Jose Ramirez if they were ever to be possible on the come up at 140, which I'm pretty sure he did not want to do that, or Crawford never had interest. But I mean, he did become undisputed, and I guess Ndongo, he was taking people down. So, you know, that was something that we could say that he did his thing. But I guess that the issue is just that, you know, with Crawford, is that Crawford, it just seemed like either Bob Arum not give him the fights that he wanted, or Bob Arum decided to make things a lot more difficult for Crawford to get his fights that he wanted. And then it just turned into an absolute mess when he said, look, the only names that I want is Manny Pacquiao or Errol Spence, because, you know, remind you, Errol Spence, he only started at 147, never moved up, and he definitely wouldn't have moved down. But I guarantee you, if Crawford started his career at 147, it would have been a lot more interesting to witness that fight. because one, Crawford, if he had, looked at things a lot more, different with Bob Arum, and he did not take his chances with trusting Bob Arum in the sense of having Bob Arum control his fights, then we could see a much better, well promoted Terence Crawford, where he does not have to be screwed over, and Crawford would have had a much more promising career from the very beginning. But the issue with Crawford is, like many other fighters, why would Crawford stay with Top Rank when Al Heyman and PBC fighters were making way more money and they were getting all the fights that they wanted? And this is why, I guess Floyd Mayweather made a great point to Crawford. You need to leave Top Rank. There's a reason why Bob Arum did not believe in you, because one, he put all of his eggs into one basket, and he decided not to, look at other options where he knew that he could have made a lot more money with networks that had promised him all the fights that he wanted. And, I understand, like, if I was in Terence Crawford's position, I would like Pacquiao to be my number one priority fight, so that way I could take him down, so that way he can be on my resume of names that I've defeated. But let me ask you something. If Pacquiao wasn't even willing to fight you, and it was not really merely about the fact that Pacquiao, he's either afraid of Crawford or just doesn't want to take that risk with Crawford. I think it's more to do with the fact, like, that, hey, Bob Arum, are you going to give me the money that I deserve with Crawford? Because Pacquiao, he's not going to go down without a good payday. And I understand, like, Pacquiao, he either had, the right things in mind, or he probably let, I don't know. It just seems like Pacquiao, he could have easily taken Crawford, for that fight. But I guess for the high risk, low reward benefactor that Crawford carries to the fight, Pacquiao obviously did a horrible manner by Crawford. And I mean, Bob Arum obviously prevented that fight from happening. It's been, receded in the sense of, or it's been co-signed by him, stating that Pacquiao is a good friend of mine. I don't want him to get hurt, and Pacquiao, he deserves to go things his way, and he shouldn't have to, basically, he was making the excuse to say that he doesn't want to promote, the fight for Pacquiao and Crawford. And, even if Bob Arum did, he obviously had Pacquiao in his best interests, but not in Crawford's interests. And I think that's what screwed up here when Crawford decided to move up to 147, when he thought that he was going to get a Pacquiao fight probably at 140, if not possibly at 147. So when Crawford moved up to 147, this is where a lot of people would criticize Crawford, and myself included. But his very first fight, he went up against the so-called very dangerous guy that defeated Manny Pacquiao prior to Crawford defeating him, Mr. Jeff Horn. Which actually, Jeff Horn, he's still pretty young. He's still got a couple years left. He's 32 years old. Actually, you want to know something? He could actually fight Crawford again, but actually no, he actually moved up in weight. Sorry, but Jeff Horn defeated Manny Pacquiao 2 fights prior to facing Crawford. He defended his title against Gary Corcoran and defeated him in a TKO 11th round victory. But after he defeated Manny Pacquiao for the title and Gary, he then fought Crawford, got his ass beat in 9 rounds. So obviously this doesn't really make any sense, because even at this time, who was there back in 2018, holding all the belts, and I believe Mr. Keith Thurman and Errol Spence was the IBF, if I'm not mistaken. If we even look at Spence's box rec, Spence box rec, I'm almost positive that at this time he actually caught a belt. He held the IBF. Errol Spence held the IBF back in 2018. So Crawford he fought Horn on June of 2018. So during that time in June, Errol, five months before Crawford. Actually, no, Errol, he fought on June 16th. Yeah, so Crawford fought a week before Errol. He fought Jeff Horn. And then while Errol was, the champion at, 147, or I'm sorry, when Errol was the champion at that same time frame, a week after Crawford had fought Horn to get his belt, Errol defended his belt against Carlos Ocampo, knocked him down, or knocked his ass out in one round. So at this point, Terence Crawford could have easily fought Errol Spence right then and there, which was 3 years ago. So Terence Crawford could have easily fought Errol Spence, and then not only that, you could have fought all of Errol Spence's contemporaries. You could have fought Lamont Peterson. You could have fought Mikey Garcia. Why didn't you fight Sean Porter? Because Sean Porter, if I'm not mistaken, he actually fought at 140 pounds. Actually, no, he never did. His very first fight, he fought at a catchweight at 165. But I don't believe he never went down to 140. Yeah, he actually fought at he fought like a fight here and there at 154, 147. So he's always been he's always been a 147 pounder, and he fought his very first or he got his very first belt against Devin Alexander. Very good fighter, by the way. Beat him, in a unanimous decision. 12-rounder, got his first belt back in 2013, beat Paulie Malignaggi, defeated him, obliterated him, and then he somewhat lost to Kell Brook in a very weird manner. That was a 12th round or 12th round unanimous decision loss, or majority decision loss, sorry. And then after that, he then fought Eric Bone, beat the crap out of him, knocked him out, and then he beat Adrian Broner, which was a very tough fight to score, but it was actually a very fun fight to watch. One unanimous decision, and then Keith Thurman, and then Andre Berto. Yeah, that was awesome when he knocked out Andre Berto. Very good fight, but Keith Thurman sadly lost. His opportunity against him. But Keith Thurman had beat him. UD. Andre Berto knocked him out. Adrian Granados, very good fight, by the way. Then he went on face Danny Garcia, very tough fight. Oh, and then Yordenis Ugas, very tough fight too. So ever since then, after the Ugas fight, then Errol Spence, very tough, close ass fight, split decision, loss, and then after that, Sebastian Formella. So technically, Errol, Terence Crawford has a lot of competition that he needs to clean up. And even though that Terence Crawford is currently in the works of getting a fight made with Mr. Keith One-Time Thurman, it would be nice to see what Terence Crawford can do. And I would like to see what Terence Crawford can bring to the table, because I do believe that Mr. Terence Crawford, he has the ability to become a very huge threat for 147. But how much longer does Crawford have? How much more time can we really say that Crawford can actually keep up? And then we could say, okay, Crawford has done what he has to do at 147. And then and then what? Is he just going to hang it up after 2 to 3 more fights? So no. what Crawford needs to do to avoid, making, a huge issue out of nothing is fight Sean Porter, fight guys like Jordanis Ugas, fight, uh, there's plenty of other fights he can also go for. I'd probably say fight Jaron Ennis, fight Virgil Ortiz. I mean, Terence Crawford really needs to take the 60-40, Errol Spence's way for the Errol Spence fight. I think that'll definitely help out Terence Crawford a lot. But in the sense of where we could see Crawford fight Sean Porter, I think that would be good. It's just like, I just feel very bad for Crawford, man. And I really hope he does, make some moves. Oh, hey, how's it going, Ricky? Yeah, agreed. Yeah, he won't fight anyone, but he's 33. He has to fight a top welter. Yeah. Of course. Honestly, I just think Crawford, he really needs to leave Top Rank, and I think honestly, I put the blame on Bob Arum, because Bob Arum, he is literally the main issue of not, giving Crawford his big fights. But Crawford, he's been putting all of his face, or he's been putting all of his faith into Bob Arum to make Bob Arum, basically control his career, and he's not, hovering over, that I guess supervision to know where these fights are gonna go. But honestly, I just really want Crawford to fight the best, because this is crunch time, and I think Crawford, he really needs to get that going. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just honestly, yeah, I definitely agree with you, Rick. Bob Arum, he's a horrible businessman, and he obviously just doesn't have anything good for with the best of top ranked fighters. And honestly, I think it's just time to see Top Rank go out of business, because as we see it with Top Rank, Top Rank is just not a very good business, and it just really sucks, because I was always thinking Top Rank could always be at that level, with other promotional companies, but it just seems like Bob Arum, he's just naturally just a crappy promoter when it comes to all the big names. And I actually do give props to Keith Thurman the other day. He actually pointed out that Bob Arum is literally one of the crappiest promoters ever. And Keith Thurman, even though that he's very outspoken at times, he made some decent points of what he said about Bob Arum, stating that, every top name fighter that Bob Arum has, previously had under his wing had left him. Floyd Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, all these fighters used to be under Bob Arum's, wing, and now they're gone. And I just think that, Terence Crawford, I really hope Terence Crawford, he could really think this over, but, dude, you have to leave. There's a reason why Bob Arum is using you. And I think that, the time is now. And I think that if Terence Crawford wants to save his career, he definitely needs to take that risk and leave Top Rank and just go over to PBC, or probably become like a free agent, and then take all the big fights, because at this point, you don't have that much time left. You have to take these big high risky fights and just go at it. As far as what the main topic of this live stream, I personally believe Terence Crawford, he is avoiding a lot of top tier competition, and I think the very first top tier opponent that maybe could be a possible reason of him trying to just keep himself clear away from all the bigger names to get to an Errol Spence or a Manny Pacquiao, which I think Manny Pacquiao is out of this, discussion, because we just recently heard the other day that Manny Pacquiao, he wants to fight Conor McGregor, and now, the WBA has stripped him of the belt, if I'm not mistaken, and now it's going to be basically Yordenis Ugas as the WBA champion, or the official WBA champion now, which I think honestly, um, if Ugas is the current champion, then Crawford should just go after him. But wait a minute, we now know that Crawford, he doesn't even mention Ugas. He doesn't even want any business with him. And the reason why is because he fought Ugas in the amateurs, and Ugas he gave Crawford problems. And I think that Crawford, he knows that if he wants to, make a 50-50 deal with Errol Spence, he needs that WBA belt. He needs to have that belt behind him if he wants to talk anything 50-50. But I don't think that's really ever going to happen because, one, I would say, regardless of who has whatever belt, Terence Crawford, he still does not have the better, resume and the bigger draw compared to Errol Spence. And for any Crawford fans that could be watching or will probably watch this replay, I'm just going to keep it very simple that Terence Crawford is not the bigger draw. Please stop saying that he is, because he is not. And Terence Crawford has not done the amount of heavy lifting compared to Errol Spence. Because the issue that a lot of Terence Crawford fans, I would say, is that they just think that Terence Crawford, is bigger than Errol Spence because he fights on Top Rank and he gets more views on ESPN. So that just means that he's better because, he has, the more wider attraction for taking out people on a bigger network compared to Errol Spence, which Errol Spence, he's been making way bigger numbers than Terence Crawford. Some examples I can give to you was when he fought I think that one, I can't even pronounce his name, but he fought this Bundu guy. This was his title eliminator fight leading up to the Kell Brook fight. But that fight got 6 million views. And I think his name was Leonard Bundu, right? I apologize for butchering that name. But yeah, when he fought him, he got over 6 million views compared to Crawford. I believe that same following night. Give me 1 second. Crawford had faced who did he face? My apologies. I have to have my box rec up as soon as I talk about these things. Yeah, 2016, August 21st. And then let's see. Yeah, he fought Victor Postal? No. Yeah. He fought Victor Postal a month before Errol Spence, but that following month that Terence Crawford fought Victor Postal on, he fought Victor Postal that following night, and that I believe only got 2 million views, but that was on a college football game night. So Crawford did not get the amount of views that many expected him to get. Compared to Errol Spence, he got over 6 million views. And, there's plenty of other fights where, when he fought Mikey Garcia, especially on pay-per-view when he was, the champion, that was I think 400,000 to 500,000 pay-per-view buys. I'm not even too sure, but honestly, it just shows for itself. Numbers don't lie. Errol Spence is the bigger draw against Terence Crawford, and to that standard, Terence Crawford does not have the marketability that many say that he does have. For I guess top tier competition that he's faced, to make himself the quote unquote A side against Errol Spence. And I just truly believe that if Crawford really wants to become the A side, I think you should probably either get that belt against Ugas. Maybe that could. Actually, no, I wouldn't even say A side. If you want to at least make it a 50-50, I'd say, yeah, get the belt from Ugas, and maybe that could turn into a 50-50 fight because you'll have two belts. So that's at least like what, 25% per belt, which, like, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's like Crawford, he has many options, but he obviously chooses to go the easy way or the easy route and make it a lot more difficult for himself when he could just easily go after Yordenis Ugas next and forget about fighting Keith Thurman or a Sean Porter. But my biggest issue with Crawford is that why isn't he talking about those fights? Why didn't he even think about fighting Keith Thurman instead of Kell Brook? And then you would have had a much better, like, right? If I'm acting crazy here, please, correct me. But let me just make it clear. Terence Crawford did not need to fight Kell Brook. He could have fought Yordenis Ugas. He could have fought Keith Thurman. He could have fought Mikey Garcia. He could have fought Danny Garcia. Even if Danny Garcia didn't want to take the Errol Spence fight at that time, but I'm just saying that as a hypothetical, he could have fought all these names except fighting Kell Brook. So why did Terence Crawford take this Kell Brook fight? Why did he even think about fighting Kell Brook when we knew that Kell Brook, he obviously did not have any reason to fight Crawford until I believe Bob Arum brought it up? Or actually, no. I think Kell Brook decided to even fight Crawford in the first place anyway because he wanted to get that WBO belt from him so that way he could get back up into the rankings. But nah, it's just like either or. It's like Crawford didn't need to fight him. He was not even his mandatory. So either way, Crawford, he could have easily went a different direction, and that would have made let the table like obviously that would have made his chances of moving up higher in the rankings a lot faster against guys like Errol Spence or Sean Porter or whoever. But I'm just saying, he didn't need to fight Kell Brook. But the thing is that, Terence Crawford took the fight anyway. Instead he could have fought bigger names. So I guess that the biggest issue that I have with Terence Crawford is that why isn't he even thinking about, going after these bigger names? Because he could have easily gone after them, but sadly he doesn't. So I think what Terence Crawford needs to do is that he needs to take these names as soon as possible, ASAP, and he needs to start taking them down. From here on out, Terence Crawford needs Keith Thurman. He needs, Sean Porter. I think a Sean Porter fight is way more profitable than a Keith Thurman fight. I'm just saying that, from my own perspective. But Terence Crawford, if he could take those names, including maybe let the up and coming rising contenders like Ron Ennis or Virgil Ortiz, I'm just using that as general possibilities. Then I think Terence Crawford, he could definitely make himself a bigger threat for Errol Spence, for the sense of he'll definitely have his name out there. But I think for proper contract negotiations for Errol Spence, he definitely needs to probably take the 60-40, because that's really the biggest issue that we have here, that Terence Crawford, he's not taking any chances with fighting any bigger top guys. But instead of that, why can't you just take the 60-40 against Errol Spence? Because what gets me angry enough is that Bud fans think that, that Terence Crawford deserves 60-40 because of his past, resume of opponents that he has faced, and I guess of his accomplishments of him being champion at 135 and 140, on top of him being undisputed at 140. So, that should, solidify him having 60-40 his way. But that's simply not true, because when it comes to big fights like this, everyone should know that titles don't matter when it comes to a big fight. I could not have a title, in, like whatever boxing division that I fight at. But if I'm bringing in a lot of people to come watch me fight, and then I am somehow the bigger draw when it comes to a big fight, then I will become the A side in contract negotiations, because that's how it's gonna work with me taking these fights, on a certain, contract, like I guess like contract agreement to make myself, I guess the leading, uh I don't even know how to say it, but basically the A side just simply means that whoever is the bigger draw in a boxing fight financially gets most of the money. And Terence Crawford is clearly not the A side. And, back to my general example for the A side, if I don't have any belts, but I'm bringing in like hundreds and thousands of people to come watch me fight, and if I decide to take a title fight against the champion, a really tough champion, where I'm going to fight for a world title, and it shows that I am, the bigger draw against this guy, and this guy doesn't bring in as many people as I do, then I will become the A side for this fight. Not because, my resume may be weaker than this guy's resume, but still I'm bringing in so many people to the fight. So therefore, just because I'm, out here fighting, I'm gonna be the A side. No, the A side is clearly whoever brings in more people to a fight that support you financially in the boxing fight will become, the A side or B side, like for the fight itself. This has been a growing factor for years. You could see it with the Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield fights, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran versus Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson versus Jake LaMotta. So, the A side, B side crap, really doesn't, really doesn't mean too much of anything other than who is just the bigger draw financially to fans that come and see you. So I guess the final thing I want to point out is, is Crawford really afraid of these guys? That's really going to be like my biggest question. I think Crawford, he has, the capability to beat every single one of these opponents. But I think what Crawford is trying to do, which I don't want to think it's true, but I don't think it's going to happen, in the sense that he's just trying to find an easy way out just to get to, Errol Spence. Or in a way, like, he either doesn't care about the sport of boxing anymore, and he's just trying to be lazy, using his ego to prevent all these bigger top tier fights that he needs to get into. So I think that, Terence Crawford, he has so much to prove, in the sense that he really needs to take these fights, or else, even if Errol Spence decides to leave 154 and Terence Crawford is still at 147, you're still going to be facing bigger names coming into the newer era of 147. And that's going to be guys like Jaron Ennis, Virgil Ortiz, just guys that are, coming into their new prime. Rashidi Ellis, Terence Crawford, he really doesn't have that leverage anymore if he's going to continue, to stay at 147. But now, like these younger, fighters that are coming into, the 147 division contender rankings are going to be a much bigger threat. And I think Crawford, he needs to take advantage of what he can get now, so that way later it doesn't become too much of a bigger issue coming into a much more riskier situation. And I think Crawford, he is obviously trying to play this smart, but in the sense that he's really taking a huge risk in not taking this Errol Spence 60-40 split deal for the fight. And then on top of that, if he tries to make up, I guess like whatever excuse to not fight Keith Thurman or a Sean Porter, which Sean Porter is his mandatory, by the way. I'm sorry that I never even brought that up. I apologize for the WBO belt. He still needs to fight Sean Porter. So either way, he better not avoid Sean Porter. He needs to have that fight under his name. And I think that's really where it's going to define him as a fighter, because Terence Crawford, he's a good fighter, man. I'm not doubting anything out of Terence Crawford, and everything that I say out of Terence Crawford is all pure love. It's pure love and criticism to say that I just want you to prove yourself more, and then we can, agree that you have, the capability of winning. I could see that Tommy Hearns, mentality out of Bud, but I guess that the big question is is Bud ready to be that Tommy Hearns? Does he have, I guess, does he have that dog in him left to make himself a bigger threat than for what we see him to be? And I think, what we see out of Terence Crawford is what we're going to get. But I say until then, he really needs to take these big names. Terence Crawford, he really has, at least in my opinion, I would say a good 3 to 5 fights left until he's like, okay, I'm going to hang it up. Everything's done. I don't need to fight no more. And then that's it. But I say until then, Crawford, you really need to get these fights in, man, because if you don't, a lot of people, including myself, are going to criticize you like many did against, man, I don't even want to say Canelo, but honestly, I guess that the biggest, critical fighter would be Shea Mosley. I understand Shea Mosley is, a much bigger, different fighter than Crawford, but this is almost similar to a Shea Mosley situation where Shea Mosley, he didn't take these fights, at a bigger, level when he was in his prime. And then Shea Mosley decided to wait years later to fight guys like Floyd Mayweather. And then I believe he fought Oscar De La Hoya. Hold on, let me just look up his box rec because I don't want to be butchering anyone's, record. But yeah, let's just take a look at Shea Mosley. Oh wow, he actually fought David Avanesyan. Yeah, that's a guy that's going to be fighting Josh Kelly. Yeah, imagine if he actually beat him. That would have been a really good win. But unfortunately, he lost to Lamont Peterson the following next fight. But yeah, Shea Mosley, if I'm not mistaken, leading up to, I would say, yeah, he actually fought Oscar De La Hoya twice, which is very interesting and very good win, by the way. But let's talk about, I guess, I don't even know. We'll probably go up with his very big fight against, we'll go to the Jesse James Lieja fight. That was at 135. Knocked his ass out. He wasn't even like a good fighter, by the way. I never really liked him. TKO'd him, RTD'd him, 9th round. Beat Golden Johnson in 7 rounds. John Brown knocked him out. Wilfredo Rivera knocked him out. This is when he moved up to 147. So when he fought these two guys at 147, John Rivera, Willie Wise, knocked both of their asses out. He then fought Oscar De La Hoya for the IBA and WBC, beat him in a very close fight. Had a split decision over him. Then after that, he then fought Antonio Diaz, Shannon Taylor, Adrian Stone, and then Vernon Forrest, a very tough opponent at the time. Lost twice against him. Very, very tough ass fight. And then after that, Raul Marquez, not Juan Marquez, but Raul Marquez. That was a no contest. Don't know why. Oh wow, he actually fought Oscar 3 times. Holy shit. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. I think he only fought him twice. If I'm not mistaken, he only fought him twice. Yeah, he only fought him twice. So, yeah, he fought Oscar De La Hoya again at 154. This is after the Vernon Forrest losses. He moved up to 154. And, yeah, had a no contest with Raul Marquez. Beat the crap out of Oscar De La Hoya, UD. Lost to Ronald Winky Wright. Very good fighter, by the way. Lost twice to him. Those are tough ass fights. Then he moved to a catchweight at 148. Very weird. Against David Estrada, beat him. Beat Jose Luis, Cruz, and then beat the crap out of Fernando Vargas at 154. That was a damn good win, by the way. Challenged his ass again. Beat him. He actually got a $100,000 bet. Bet bonus, right? I think that was in the very first fight. But very good win. Two very good wins. Beat the living crap out of Vargas twice. And then he faced Luis Collazo, very good fighter. Not gonna lie. I think Collazo, he used to be a world champion. Yeah. No, he wasn't. I don't think so. No, he never did. I don't think so. International welterweight title. No, I don't think he ever. I don't think he. Oh, actually, no. He actually won. Yeah, the WBA at 147. I keep forgetting that. Yep, he won the WBA. Then sadly, he lost it to Ricky Hatton, which that fight didn't make any sense, by the way. Yeah. I mean, Luis Collazo, he's still a very good fighter. Can't really doubt him for everything that he's done. He lost to Keith Thurman. That was a very sad win. Beat the crap out of Brian Perella. Beat Samuel Vargas. Kujachia Abu Dakarov. That was a very tough ass decision. Yeah, that was a huge ass cut too. Kujatio. Yeah, Kujatio. He's very dangerous opponent. Let's talk about Shane Mosley again. But yeah, he beat Luis Collazo. That was a world title or interim championship. Defeated him. And then, sadly, he lost to Miguel Cotto. That was a very tough, hard-fought fight. And then he went on back and beat the crap out of Ricardo Mayorga. I believe he even fought him twice, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he fought him twice. I remember. Beat the crap out of Mayorga, and then he beat the living crap out of Antonio Margarito after he cheated against my boy Miguel Cotto, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he fought Miguel Cotto, cheated against him, cheated against Golden Johnson and Kermit Cintron. Just seriously, Margarito, he does not deserve to be thought about. Margarito, he is by far the dirtiest piece of shit cheater ever. To hell with you, Margarito. Such a disgrace to Mexican boxing. But he beat the crap out of Margarito in devastating fashion. And then he went on to face Floyd Mayweather. Sadly, he lost, which he should have been fought Floyd at 135, or even 140. That would have been a damn good fight. But yeah, he actually lost to Floyd Mayweather, and then he came to a very tough, you know, yeah, he came to he came to a very tough split decision draw to Sergio Mora. Very tough fight, and after that, he then lost to Manny Pacquiao in a very controversial, controversial scorecard. That obviously it didn't make any sense from the beginning, but he got knocked down in round 3. Then Canelo Alvarez, he was obviously gunshot. He wasn't able to do his thing. And then he fought Anthony. He beat Pablo Cano after losing to Canelo for the WBC world title. And then he fought Anthony Mundine. Sadly, got knocked out. First time in his career, sadly. Then after that, fought Ricardo Mayorga, beat the crap out of him. Patrick Lopez beat the crap out of him. And then lost to David Avana Nason. So like my homie Shane Mosley has done a lot of great things in his career, and you could see that when he stepped it up, he kept going up. He never kept going backwards. But looking at Terence Crawford, it's just that Terence Crawford, he really needs to start, obviously, fighting these top guys, because compared to Shane Mosley, Shane Mosley, he was technically in the similarity of what Terence Crawford went through, where I believe he was with Top Rank at one point and Golden Boy, but then he moved over to Showtime with Al Heyman and the PBC, stable. So either way, like, he made himself a much bigger name, and then he then made himself a much bigger, influence at the time. So it's just that, with Terence Crawford, it's the same thing. He gets these belts, and then he tries to go for undisputed, did everything that he had to do, and then after that, he vacates everything, and then he moves up to a new division, i.e. 147, and he doesn't do everything that everyone wanted him to do. And sadly, Crawford, he's not able to get all these names that he claims to say he's going to get. And look at what happens. He doesn't do everything properly. So he makes himself a much bigger, problem, in this whole contract negotiation with Spence, where he hasn't shown his worth at 147 to show that he deserves to be in there with Errol Spence for a proper contract agreement. So I think Crawford, he really needs to just take the 60-40, and that's pretty much it. So my final thoughts on Terence Crawford is that I do not hate Terence Crawford. I respect every single bit of that of him. And I hope Terence Crawford, he does everything he needs to do to prove to me as a fan and as a participant of the sport that I support and I actively get into, to prove everyone around the world that you are the best at 147. Because I do believe Crawford, he has the potential to be Errol Spence, because, when we break this fight down stylistically, as styles make fights, Terence Crawford, he got faster hands than Errol. And I think IQ-wise, he can outstep Errol, not just because Errol, he suffered from the car accident, and he may not be like the same Errol that people may think he is, but I think either or, Terence Crawford would give Errol Spence some very, very difficult shots for him to land, and Terence Crawford would annihilate, Errol Spence's power in the sense that he'll just find those big shots and then boom, he can easily pick Errol apart, but it's going to be very difficult to try to get some good shots off of Errol. Because Errol, he has a very good chin, he has a very good frame for out hustling you and making you psychologically broken. And we can see that out of all of his fights. He makes his fights look very easy because he psychologically wears you down. Many would say he's a brawler, but Errol Spence is technically he's a defensive, aggressive puncher. It may sound weird, but Errol Spence is just that type of guy where he fights like a Titan, but he's very defensive like a Spartan. And I think that's because that he knows what he could do to you, but he chooses not to be super hyper aggressive because he likes to save his energy for later. And that's what I like out of Errol Spence. Because Errol Spence, he keeps everything together. And he knows what he has to do, in achieving, a huge win over a big name opponent like Terence Crawford. So I think what Terence Crawford, stylistically would need to do to Errol Spence is that he needs to throw a lot more, he needs to throw a lot more jabs that will suppress Errol Spence's, counter jabs that he likes to throw, in the sense of, he shouldn't need to, overextend his combinations like he tries to, and he needs to find those shots where he makes you psychologically confusing, and then whenever he switches from ortho to southpaw, he needs to stick at southpaw and he needs to just use orthodox whenever he either gets pressured, or he could use that as like a defensive mechanism to make you confused, and then he could use the southpaw stance as a means to use it as a aggressive instigator for him to basically wear you out and defeat you. So I think Terence Crawford, he knows he can do that, but the problem is that Crawford, he sometimes gets careless with his defense and he doesn't let his hands go at the right time, which, I mean, he could easily do that. But here's, what the biggest issue. If Crawford, lets his hands go against a guy like Errol, which Errol, he has good defense. Let's not get it twisted. He's a very dangerous defensive, aggressive puncher. And what I mean by that is that his defense is so cunning. You don't know where his punches are coming from. You don't know if he's going to throw the left. You don't know if he's going to throw that crazy jab, hook body shot, which I'm saying that in the sense of like when he jabs you, he could either hook you or body shot you. Either or, it's very unpredictable. And that's why I like Errol Spence in the sense of he knows how to make things happen and he knows how to crack you down when he sees those opportunities to be made. Like when he throws those body shots, his body shots are like Halloween candy shots. Like as much as I like to keep it real with Errol Spence, his body shots are just very crucial and very deadly. And that's what makes him so special in this equation against Crawford, because Crawford, he's never been hit that hard to the point where, we could see him down, which, I mean, a guy like, Aegiscus Kabeliscus gave him a give him a very challenging fight. But still, you know, we just can't say that Crawford is going to let a guy like Errol do that to him. So I don't know. I think stylistically Crawford, he could slightly edge out Errol, but it could be the same thing with Errol. It could either be a split decision win, or it could simply be a knockout from either guy. But I would seriously like to see this fight happen, because this is one of the biggest fights to be made in boxing right now. And I think Terence Crawford, he has a lot to prove if he wants to keep himself relevant in the sport of boxing for a long time. So I think when it comes to resume, when it comes to legacy, take it. You know, stop making money the excuse to not fight your toughest contemporaries, and stop letting promoters control your career. Because now I understand the corruption in boxing. A lot of people just choose to let their promoters do the job. And I'm sorry, that's not how the sport of boxing needs to be. It's not something to be sorry about. This is your career, for crying out loud. Because compare this to any other sport like the NBA. Um, players players want to make sure that they get paid, for a good contract that they're playing for, for the team that they commit to. So boxers should be in control of their contract to know, what type of money they're going to be getting every fight that they get into. But they're going to get, yeah, but they have to make sure to the promoter or to the network that they fight under, that they are fighting big name fights. And I think from here on out, Crawford, he needs to just take all the big names. You can fight, let's see. You can fight Sean Porter. You could fight Jordanis Ugas. You could fight, Keith Thurman. You could fight Danny Garcia, even though that he lost to Errol Spence. You could fight Jaron Ennis. You could fight Virgil Ortiz. You can fight I don't know. You have so many damn options, but it's just that, I don't even know, man. You know, that is such a huge resume of people that I've just put down that Crawford should have been one in the smoke, which, I mean, there's a reason why his name is Bud Crawford. Bud stands for he wants all the smoke. So Bud, he has all the tools to beat all these guys. But the question is he willing to step up to the plate and take these guys on? And I say, with him being on crunch time with age, I say my top 3 fights, that if I was Terence Crawford and I'm trying to finish up 2021 strong before fighting Errol Spence, I'm going to take the damn Sean Porter fight, get him up out of there, and then, actually, no. Sean Porter, he could wait. Take Jordanis Ugas before Errol Spence, and then take either Sean Porter or Keith Thurman, because Errol Spence, he needs to stay busy, so he's going to probably take Sean Porter. But I would either take Sean Porter or Keith Thurman. So Jordanis Ugas, Sean Porter or Keith Thurman, and then Errol Spence. Because, look, he's going to be 34 in September. He got like less than 8 months to get that, to get all this stuff done. And he cannot be sitting on the shelf for 8+ months leading into another year. So no, Terence Crawford, I highly advise you, please take either the 60-40 with Spence to have this damn fight made already. So that way you can become the A side if you beat Errol Spence, and then nothing can be, disputed. Because, look, this is why Errol Spence has issues with you, because you're making it harder for contract negotiations to be made for this fight to be finalized, right? So I don't know what else to really say other than, like, Terence Crawford, you got to step it up, homie. But no hard feelings against my homie Terence Crawford. I'm pretty sure, he could be watching my channel or any other channel on YouTube, because I know, the champ, he gotta be doing that investigation. But my message out to Crawford's team, please take those fights. I'm just saying, as a fan, I really want to see you fight the best. And I think that Crawford, if he does that, that'll make me happy, and that'll make the whole world happy to look at you a lot different than for what people are, saying about you. So that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. Um, I will be coming back for another show sometime in the future. Huge shout out to Ricky Williams. Thank you for stopping by. Peace to you. Shout out to all the good boxing channels, all the LDBC boxing channels. Appreciate every single one of y'all, especially to whom I talk to. Shout out to a couple channels: Kinda Local Sports, BFTV, Dante's Boxing Nation, Aki TV, Blue Blood Sports TV, Fanan. Everyone that has dedicated a lot of content here on YouTube, and for any other alternative media that will be on the come up after YouTube's gone, support every single one of y'all. So for all my followers, thank you. Until next time for another damn good show, I appreciate it. Thank you and goodbye.